All right, welcome to This Explainer. Let's just jump right in, shall we? We all know the classic fable of the boy who cried wolf. It's basically a foundational story taught to us as kids about the absolute dangers of lying and the very real consequences of false alarms. But the source material we are looking at today explores a truly fascinating sequel, The Boy Who Cried Wolf, Part 2. Today, we're going to dive deep into the mechanics of rebuilding broken trust, focusing heavily on the shepherd boy's incredibly difficult path to redemption, and the exact moment he was forced to prove his newfound honesty to a highly skeptical world.
But here's the real kicker. What happens after the lies stop? Think about that for a second. It's a brilliant starting point for our analysis today. I really want you to consider the difficult journey of redemption that begins right after a major breach of trust. Because, honestly, when the trickery ends, the real work actually begins. It's one thing to get caught in a lie and feel bad about it, but how do you move forward when an entire village has essentially written you off?
Section 1. A Vow of Honesty.
So our source text shows us that after learning his lesson, the boy actually had this massive internal shift. He made a firm, quiet promise to himself that he would never tell a lie again. And really, this is the absolute foundation of any true redemption arc, that personal, silent commitment to change before anyone else in the community even notices. But as we know, trust isn't rebuilt in a single afternoon. Look at the timeline here. On day 1, he simply promises to stop playing tricks. But a promise alone isn't enough to sway a village, right? By week 1, he's taking the sheep to the Green Hills every single day without incident, and by month 1, the boy is staying highly alert and actively caring for his flock instead of messing around. He is demonstrating consistent daily action, basically just allowing time to pass while doing the right thing.
Now notice the psychological contrast during this transitional period. It's super interesting. The boy is showing consistent honesty and genuinely caring for the flock. He's doing everything right. But the villagers, well, they notice the change for sure, but they definitely still remember his past lies. They are only slowly, kind of reluctantly beginning to believe that he's actually become honest. It perfectly captures the tension of this period. Trust, as we're clearly seeing, rebuilds painstakingly slowly.
Section 2. The Ultimate Test.
Because, well, every period of newfound peace eventually hits a bump in the road, right? We're shifting the narrative here to a quiet evening where the boy's newly established track record is about to be completely shattered. His vow of honesty is about to be put to the absolute test. Picture this. Right behind the bushes, just as the sun is setting, the boy hears a strange sound. Grrr. Suddenly a real, actual wolf slowly steps out from the shadows, and its eyes are fixed directly on the helpless sheep. This is the moment of pure crisis. The boy isn't bored anymore looking for a laugh. He's facing a legitimate, terrifying threat to his flock.
Now, instead of totally panicking, look at how he responds. First off, he stays completely calm. Actually, scratch that. He doesn't just stay calm, he immediately gathers the sheep together and then climbs up onto a large rock for safety and visibility. This is a massive departure from the bored kid who used to pull pranks. He didn't abandon his post. He was highly practical, methodical, and honestly, incredibly mature in how he managed the immediate safety of his flock before doing anything else. And once he's securely on that rock, he shouts with everything he's got. "Wolf! Wolf! Please help! This time it's real!" Just imagine the desperate urgency in that plea. He is forced to rely on the exact emergency system that he had previously abused for his own amusement. He's crying wolf again, but this time he is entirely dependent on a village that he has repeatedly deceived in the past.
Section 3. A Second Chance.
So that desperate shout echoes all the way down the hill, and the villagers hear it. Everyone stops what they're doing, and it forces this crucial, high-stakes, split-second decision that the entire community has to make in real time. Honestly, ask yourself right now, would you believe him? If you were a villager and you had dropped your tools and run up that hill twice before in a complete panic, only to be laughed at by this very boy, would you have run up that hill a third time? No way, right? It forces us to confront the real-world consequences of the boy's past lies. When you abuse people's good faith, human nature makes it incredibly difficult for them to risk looking foolish again.
And this sets up a really profound moral dilemma. On one hand, you have the villager's natural hesitation, completely paralyzed by the memory of how he fooled them before. It is just a completely natural, logical human instinct to doubt a known liar. But on the other hand, this wise elder steps forward, representing a totally different perspective, the conscious choice to extend grace, believing that everyone deserves a second chance.
The elder just cuts right through all that hesitation and says, everyone deserves a second chance. Let's go and help him. What makes this the ultimate turning point of the entire story is that the elder doesn't say he knows for a fact the boy is telling the truth this time. Not at all. The elder simply argues that the boy is worthy of a second chance,
And that single extension of grace is all it takes to spark the rest of the villagers to grab their sticks and run up the hill together.
And man, does that decision pay off immediately. When the wolf saw the angry villagers charging up the hill with their sticks, it became frightened and ran deep into the forest, leaving the sheep completely safe. The crisis is resolved not just because the boy called for help, but because the community literally chose to answer. Their united front was the absolute only thing capable of frightening the wolf away.
After the danger passes and the adrenaline wears off, we get this incredibly emotional aftermath. With tears in his eyes, the boy says, "Thank you for trusting me again. I promise I will always tell the truth." He deeply understands the magnitude of what just happened. He knows they had every logical reason to stay home, but they showed up for him anyway. And you know what? The source tells us that from that day on, he actually kept his promise. He became known as the most honest shepherd in the entire village, and whenever he spoke, people listened.
Section 4. Rebuilding Broken Trust.
So, we've watched this narrative play out step by step, but now it's time to extract the overarching moral of the story. How did a boy known only for trickery successfully transform into the most honest, respected shepherd in the village? Basically, how do we define what was actually repaired? Well, trust is confidence earned back over time through telling the truth and changing actions, even after making mistakes. The source material views trust not as a right that is freely or easily given, but as a highly valuable asset, an asset that must be systematically earned, and in this case, re-earned over time.
And the story actually gives us a literal formula for actively repairing that broken trust. First, tell the truth consistently. It can't just be once, it has to become a predictable pattern. Second, change your actions. The boy didn't just stop lying, he actively started caring for his flock properly. And third, give it time. There is no shortcut here. You just have to let time do the heavy lifting of proving your consistency.
We've explored how honesty and consistent action can truly rebuild what was broken. But I want to leave you with this final thought for today. Who in your life deserves a second chance? Whether you are the person trying to rebuild trust through consistent honesty, or maybe you find yourself in the position of the wise elder, choosing to extend grace to someone who has failed you in the past, this story reminds us that redemption is absolutely possible. It takes time, it takes action, and sometimes it just takes one person willing to run up that hill one more time.